had something to say back. And then Ja
got in there. I didn't see that the first time.
I saw that the first time.
Fresh footage has just hit the internet, and it is absolutely explosive. We're seeing a raw, unfiltered confrontation between Klay Thompson and Ja Morant that went down right after a superheated Mavericks-Grizzlies matchup. Now, what kicked off as some typical on-court trash talk spiraled into something deeply personal and fast. And just when you thought the tension might have finally cooled off, a shocking twist erupted that is going to leave you absolutely stunned. So, let's break down exactly what happened. This was the night everything exploded. What was supposed to be just another run-of-the-mill regular season game in the Western Conference completely transformed into one of the most talked about, debated, and analyzed moments of the entire NBA season. On November 22, 2025, inside the American Airlines Center in Dallas, the basketball world witnessed an event that would completely take over headlines, social media feeds, and sports talk shows for days and days to come. So, yeah, we've got some serious drama brewing in the NBA world. And honestly, I love it, especially when it involves superstars like Ja Morant and Klay Thompson. But here's the backstory on how it all began. The Memphis Grizzlies were in town to visit the Dallas Mavericks for what, on paper, looked like a standard NBA in-season tournament game. But lurking just beneath the surface, tensions were simmering, getting ready to boil over into a viral confrontation that absolutely nobody could have seen coming. The atmosphere inside that arena was electric from the very first tip. Both of these teams came out swinging, playing with an intensity that felt way more like a do-or-die playoff elimination game than a mid-November contest. The Grizzlies, who were dealing with a roster absolutely decimated by injuries and were missing their explosive superstar Ja Morant due to a nagging calf strain, were playing with a massive chip on their shoulder, determined to prove they could compete without their leader. Meanwhile, you had the Mavericks, featuring their newly acquired veteran sharpshooter Klay Thompson, playing alongside the superstar duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and they were desperate to build some momentum and start stringing together wins after what had been a pretty inconsistent start to their season.
So Ja Morant, during Kim Spencer's post-game interview, he goes, "Tell him who's the best shooter in the house." It wasn't bro from Golden State. Memphis Grizzlies did play the Dallas Mavericks, which he's talking about Klay Thompson. He's throwing the shot, right? And honestly, I don't see nothing wrong.
From the very beginning, you could just tell this game had a different, more aggressive feel to it. The physicality was cranked up to 11, with both teams engaging in some seriously aggressive defense that led to a lot of chippy exchanges and hard fouls. The first half was a real grinded-out, low-scoring affair where neither team could manage to create any significant separation on the scoreboard. The Grizzlies, showing this remarkable resilience without their star point guard, were leaning heavily on balanced scoring and some truly tenacious defense to stay in the fight. The Mavericks, on the other hand, just couldn't seem to find their offensive rhythm. We saw shots that normally fall for them clanging off the rim and passes that usually connect getting picked off or going astray. As the game wore on into the second half, these little low-ends of friction started to pile up, like kindling just waiting for a spark to set it all ablaze. Midway through the contest, Klay Thompson found himself locked in a heated verbal exchange with Grizzlies forward Santi Aldama after what Klay clearly perceived as a dirty play. The incident involved the Mavericks' rookie sensation, Cooper Flagg, the highly touted first overall pick who had been thrust right into the spotlight from day one. During a scramble for a loose ball on the floor, Aldama appeared to either trip or aggressively grab at Flagg, and Klay, fully embracing his new role as a veteran mentor and protector, immediately stepped in to confront Aldama face-to-face. You have to understand, this wasn't just about basketball anymore. For Klay, it was about defending family, it was about establishing boundaries, and it was about showing the young players on his team that he had their backs no matter what.
Hey, Unc, that sounds personal, Unc. You hear me? Most of the time when you have an altercation, when cooler heads prevail, once you get to the locker room.
But that confrontation with Aldama was really just the opening act. Later in the game, Klay Thompson found himself right back at the center of the controversy when he got into yet another verbal spat. And this time, it was with Grizzlies guard Vince Williams Jr. The two players got tangled up on a play that Klay felt involved some unnecessary flopping or exaggeration. basically a move designed to trick the officials into calling a foul. Now, Klay Thompson, a guy who has built his entire legendary career on honest, hard-nosed basketball, took major exception to what he saw as gamesmanship crossing the line into flat-out deception. All the while, the crowd, sensing this rising tension and feeding off the increasingly hostile energy between the two teams, just grew louder and louder with every contested rebound, every hard screen, and every single word exchanged between the players. Despite the Mavericks' best efforts and a really spirited performance from Thompson, he would finish the game with 22 points, including an efficient 6 for 11 shooting from three-point range. The Grizzlies managed to maintain their composure and control throughout that entire second half. Key contributions came from some really unexpected sources, with players stepping up big time to fill the void left by Ja Morant's absence. The game stayed competitive right down to the final minutes, but a crucial miss from Klay Thompson himself, a three-pointer that heartbreakingly rimmed out in the closing moments, effectively sealed the Mavericks' fate. The Grizzlies closed out a hard-fought 100, but the game itself, as intense and competitive as it was, would quickly become nothing more than a footnote to what happened in the moments immediately following that final buzzer. As the Grizzlies were celebrating their impressive road win, Ja Morant, dressed in street clothes with his blue hoodie and visible dreadlocks making him easy to spot, made his way onto the court.
And then with Ja, he's a funny guy. He has a lot to say all the time, especially for a guy who rarely takes accountability. But you know what? That's for another day.
What did Ja have to say on this occasion?
Nothing of intelligent depth. It was really just running his mouth.
He approached the area where Klay Thompson was standing, still trying to process the incredibly disappointing loss, and pointed directly at Thompson's face. What came out of his mouth next was a pointed, provocative jab that was designed to cut deep. Morant essentially dismissed Klay Thompson's legendary reputation as one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA, declaring right then and there that Cam Spencer was the best shooter on the court that night. Now, let me be clear. This wasn't just some playful banter between competitors. This was a direct challenge, a deliberate provocation coming from someone who wasn't even in uniform, aimed squarely at a four-time NBA champion with one of the most decorated careers in all of basketball history. Klay's reaction was immediate, and it was visceral. He swatted Morant's hand away from his face and fired back verbally, escalating the situation from simple trash talk to something that required immediate intervention. Within seconds, bodies were rushing in from all directions, teammates, coaches, security personnel, all working frantically to separate the two players before this verbal confrontation could potentially turn physical. The footage captured from multiple angles shows the sheer intensity of that moment. Morant leaning in aggressively, his body language completely confrontational and unyielding. Klay standing his ground with a steely glare, absolutely refusing to back down, despite being caught off guard by the audacity of a benched player. And there in the periphery, you could see young players like Cooper Flagg and Cam Spencer just looking on, caught up in the chaos of a rivalry they were only just beginning to truly understand.
And he's been running his mouth for a long time, and it's funny to run your mouth when you're on the bench. It's kind of the story of his career so far, just leaving us wanting more. You know, we all want to see him out there and do his best, but he's just been letting a lot of other stuff get in the way of that.
The entire incident lasted less than a minute, but in that brief, chaotic window of time, something incredibly significant had occurred. This wasn't just two players having a few words after a competitive game. No, this was the culmination of years of brewing animosity, the intersection of old grievances and new frustrations, the collision of different eras and completely different approaches to the game. As phones all throughout the arena lit up to capture every single second of the confrontation, nobody yet realized just how viral this moment would become, or how it would come to dominate basketball conversations for the days and weeks that followed. Even seasoned analysts who had seen countless NBA confrontations over the years were taken aback by the deeply personal nature of what had just unfolded. The disrespect seemed to cut way deeper than typical trash talk, and you could feel it in the way commentators began to discuss the incident, struggling to find the right words. What had started as just a basketball game had now transformed into something much, much larger. A moment that would force conversations about respect, accountability, maturity, and the unwritten codes that govern the world of professional sport. And as both players were finally separated and escorted in different directions, with emotions still running incredibly high and words still being exchanged from a distance, one thing was crystal clear to everyone watching: this story was far from over.
We need that in the NBA. We need our best players to be out there. And when you're a star, it comes with a great responsibility. And I hate to see that go to waste.
Now, if the on-court confrontation was explosive, what came next was absolutely incendiary. While cooler heads often prevail after the heat of competition finally subsides, and players retreat to the quiet of their respective locker rooms to decompress, Klay Thompson had absolutely no intention of sweeping this incident under the rug. He wasn't about to let it fade into the background noise of another NBA regular season. What followed was one of the most brutally honest, scathingly critical post-game interviews that the basketball world had witnessed in years. A moment where a decorated, veteran champion pulled absolutely no punches in expressing his true, unfiltered feelings about his younger adversary. Standing there in front of his locker, still wearing his post-game attire, Thompson did not hold back one bit when reporters asked him about the confrontation with Morant. The words that came out of his mouth hit like hammer blows, with each sentence carrying the immense weight of Thompson's 13-year career, his 4 championship rings, his grueling battles through devastating injuries, and the hard-earned wisdom he's gained about what it truly takes to succeed at the highest level of this sport. But Klay Thompson wasn't finished, not by a long shot. His frustration with Morant had clearly been building for years, and this moment became the release valve for all of that accumulated resentment.
You know, he took little shots. He took little shots as if he was sitting on the other side of the spectrum like an analyst, like a pundit, you know, taking subtle shots based on his character and his actions and some of the things he's done on and off the court.
This was no longer just trash talk being returned in kind. This was a veteran legend calling out what he perceived as unfulfilled potential, wasted talent, and a fundamental, glaring lack of accountability. Thompson's frustration was palpable. You could feel it in his voice. His disappointment was genuine, and his message was absolutely unmistakable. Talk is cheap, and championships are earned through consistency, through dedication, and through being available when your team needs you the most. Then he delivered the final knockout punch, and it came with the kind of authority that can only be earned by someone who has the right to speak on what it truly means to be a star in this league. The basketball world's reaction was swift, massive, and deeply divided. The clip of Klay's interview went viral almost instantly, amassing over 3.4 million views in just a matter of hours and sparking intense debates across every single corner of social media. Supporters of Thompson rallied around his message, pointing to his incredible resume as all the validation needed for his right to speak his mind. They highlighted his iconic achievements, the time he scored an unbelievable 60 points in just 3 quarters against the Indiana Pacers, his record-breaking 37-point quarter against the Sacramento Kings, his 14 three-pointers in a single game, and of course, his status as one of the greatest pure shooters in basketball history. They argued that Ja Morant needed to learn a lesson in respect, especially from someone who had proven everything there was to prove in this league.
It just doesn't. I mean, you got to get a little lucky in this league. I've learned too. Like, you got to get some breaks with injuries. I mean, Paul and I have been through it, but just lucky to still be going for 5.
But to truly understand the sheer depth of animosity in that post-game exchange, you have to rewind the clock all the way back to where this bitter rivalry first took root. The seeds of this conflict were planted during the 2022 Western Conference semifinals, a playoff series that represented a massive clash of basketball philosophies, generations, and attitudes. On one side, you had the Golden State Warriors dynasty, Thompson, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and the rest of a team that had dominated the league for nearly a decade. They were winners of multiple championships and the standard bearers for how modern basketball should be played. On the other side were the Memphis Grizzlies, a young, hungry, and brazenly confident team led by Ja Morant, who played with a kind of fearlessness that sometimes bordered on recklessness. He was backed up by a supporting cast that completely embraced their underdog identity and flat out refused to be intimidated by reputation or legacy. The series exploded into controversy during Game 3, when Morant suffered a knee injury on a play involving Warriors guard Jordan Poole. Morant publicly labeled the play as dirty, sparking a firestorm of accusations, defensive statements, and a heated back and forth between the two camps. Klay, ever the loyal teammate and defender of his Warriors family, stepped directly into the controversy, dismissing Morant's claims and emphasizing that Poole had no malicious intent, drawing from his own painful, career-altering experiences with devastating injuries, the torn ACL, and ruptured Achilles tendon that cost him 2.5 years of his prime. Thompson understood the gravity of those accusations and refused to let them stand unchallenged.
The gun wasn't mine. It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence, but I take full responsibility for my actions. Made a bad mistake, and I can see the image that I painted over myself with my recent mistakes. But in the future, I'm gonna show everybody who Ja really is, what I'm about, and change this narrative.
To fully comprehend why this confrontation resonated so deeply with basketball fans and completely dominated conversations for days, you absolutely need to understand the personal journeys that brought both Klay Thompson and Ja Morant to that explosive moment on the court. These aren't just two basketball players throwing words at each other. They are complex individuals whose life experiences, career trajectories, personal struggles, and public controversies have shaped exactly who they are and how they're perceived by the entire world. Klay Thompson's path to NBA greatness was paved with a unique combination of privilege, immense talent, and an almost supernatural shooting ability that made him one of the most feared offensive weapons in the history of the game. Born into basketball royalty as the son of former NBA champion Ja Thompson, Klay grew up in Southern California completely surrounded by the game, absorbing its fundamentals and developing his craft from childhood. His college career at Washington State University showcased his lethal shooting, which led to his selection by the Golden State Warriors with the 11th pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, a selection that would prove to be one of the most consequential in modern basketball history. Alongside Stephen Curry, Thompson formed the Splash Brothers, the most devastating backcourt duo the league had ever seen. Together, they revolutionized the sport, proving that three-point shooting could be the foundation of a championship dynasty, rather than just a complementary skill.
I'm a dog. I put work in day out. I've been putting work in, man. I ain't played a game in 8 months. Had a lot of time, learn myself. A lot of hard days, where I went through it. But, basketball is, my life, what I love, therapeutic for me. And I'm just, excited to be back.
Just 2 months after that first incident, another video surfaced, this time showing Morant with a gun in a car, which led NBA Commissioner Adam Silver to describe his behavior as reckless and to impose a massive 25-game suspension to start the 2020. Morant underwent counseling and issued public apologies, but the damage to his reputation was severe and, for many, lasting. The controversies didn't stop there, continuing right into the 2020. Most recently, in November 2025, Morant had a heated exchange with his own coaching staff after a loss to the Lakers, resulting in a 1-game suspension for insubordination. This troubling pattern of emotional outbursts and disciplinary issues has led to increasing questions about whether Morant can ever mature into the leader that Memphis desperately needs him to be, or if his incredible talent will be perpetually overshadowed by these constant distractions and controversies. When he finally returned to the court, after his lengthy suspension, Morant spoke about the immense mental and emotional toll of being away from the game he loved. So, when Klay Thompson criticized Morant for rarely taking accountability, he was speaking from the perspective of someone who had battled through his own devastating injuries, rebuilt his career from scratch, and consistently showed up for his team and his teammates, year after year. His incredibly pointed comment that this was the story of his career so far, just leaving us wanting more, reflected a genuine, deep-seated frustration with seeing such immense, generational talent being squandered due to poor decision-making and a constant stream of off-court issues. The immediate aftermath of this on-court confrontation saw intense speculation about potential disciplinary action from the NBA. As of November 23, 2025, the league had not yet announced any fines or suspensions, though the entire incident remains under review. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please click on one of the boxes that are playing on your screen right now to watch more similar content.